In the world of theology, every so often an idea comes along that's so radical, it just reshapes our understanding of everything. Today, we're diving deep into one of those texts, Section 93 of the Doctrine and Covenants, a document that really challenged centuries of religious thought.
And we're going to frame our whole look at this text around a central mystery. Really, how did a 27-year-old farm boy with very little formal education produce a document that presented this brand new radical vision of God, humanity, and, well, existence itself? So, picture this. It's May 1833. The man is Joseph Smith, and the text he produces, it's going to go on to challenge some of the very foundations of Christian orthodoxy. So, what on earth was so revolutionary about it? Let's get into it.
Okay, so the material we're drawing from presents Doctrine and Covenants Section 93 not just as, a bunch of random ideas, but as a really carefully constructed philosophical framework. It's a dense text for sure, but it's one that absolutely rewards a close reading.
This single section tackles some of the biggest questions in all of theology. You've got this idea that existence is all about constant growth or eternal progression, a totally unique view on the nature of Jesus Christ, a boundless, almost unbelievable vision of human potential, and this core metaphysical concept called intelligence.
Let's start with one of the most radical ideas in the whole text. Now, traditional Christianity often portrays Christ as this static, all-knowing being from the very beginning. But Section 93 offers a completely different perspective, a deity who is actually in a state of constant progression.
Flat out, that Jesus himself progressed, that he grew and he learned. He didn't start with a full knowledgefulness, but he acquired it over time, moving from grace to grace. This idea of a progressing God, well, it's the cornerstone of this entire theology.
Now, the argument here is that this isn't a contradiction of the Bible at all, but an expansion of it. The language in D&C 93 directly mirrors Luke 2:52, which says Jesus increased in wisdom and stature. So the idea of Christ's growth, it's already right there in the New Testament. Section 93 just elevates it to a central foundational doctrine.
Okay, so this leads us to the next key concept. If progression is the process, what's the fundamental substance that allows for it? According to this text, it's something called intelligence. This intelligence, or light and truth, is presented as an eternal, uncreated element. Think about that. It wasn't made and it can't be unmade. It's the very essence of consciousness and existence itself, and it's a source that all beings can tap into.
The text then lays out this really clear path, almost like a spiritual law of cause and effect. By aligning with divine principles, through obedience, we can access more of this light and truth, this eternal intelligence, and that in turn fuels our growth and leads to our ultimate potential, or glory. It's all about active participation, not just passive belief.
So let's put the pieces together. If Christ himself progressed, and if this eternal, raw material of intelligence is available to everyone, what does that actually mean for us? Well, this is where the text connects these huge ideas directly to our own limitless potential.
The logic is laid out pretty simply, and it's powerful. Christ's life becomes the ultimate model. If he, the Son of God, had to follow a path of progression, then that same exact path must be available to all of God's children. His journey from grace to grace becomes our blueprint.
And this brings us right back to that key point about the text's relationship with the Bible. The argument isn't that this is some kind of correction, but that it's a clarification, a revelation of deeper truths that were only ever hinted at in earlier scripture.
You can almost see the doctrine evolving over time. It starts with a hint in the Bible, like Christ's growth in Luke. Then it's clarified in a big way in D&C 93. And then, years later, it's expanded upon even more in a famous sermon known as the King Follett Discourse. It paints this picture of a consistent, unfolding revelation, piece by piece.
So all of this brings us back to our original question. How did a 27-year-old with so little formal education produce such a complex and, frankly, revolutionary text? The source material we're working with proposes an answer it calls the revelation hypothesis.
When you just look at the circumstances, it's a fascinating puzzle, right? You have a young man, limited schooling, who produces a text of incredible philosophical depth. The ideas were completely at odds with the religious culture of his time, and he was so committed to these beliefs that he ultimately died for them.
According to the source, the most logical conclusion is that these ideas came through divine revelation, rather than just from the unaided intellect of Joseph Smith.
The gap between his background and the text's sophistication it's too vast to be easily explained in any other way. Now, of course, other interpretations exist, but the revelation hypothesis is the one presented here. And the consistency of this vision over time is pretty remarkable. The core ideas we find in D&C 93 and 1833 are the exact same ideas he expands upon 11 years later, shortly before his death. This suggests these weren't some late-life speculations, but they were foundational principles from the very beginning.
So, what's the key takeaway? In essence, Section 93 offers this truly radical and dynamic vision of the universe. It completely replaces a static model with one of eternal progression, where growth isn't just a possibility, is the fundamental law of existence for everyone, from us all the way up to God himself.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. If growth and progression are literally woven into the fabric of reality, not just as a nice idea, but as a fundamental principle, what does that truly mean for our own personal capacity to change, to learn, and to become more than we are right now?